StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why social media will never, ever, ever be real life. So yesterday I gave you the other side of this, why social media has become real life for many people. Today I'm going to tell you why social media will never become real life, as I like to argue both sides of many topics. I don't do it every single time I talk about things here, but every now and then I do like to argue both sides of a conversation just so you can understand the angles that both sides are coming from. You can draw your own conclusion as to what side you want to put yourself on, but you should understand both sides of a conversation just so, again, even if you disagree with the point, you want to understand why the point is the point. So given that I just told you that social media has become real life, now, as I said, I'm going to make the counter argument. And this is why social media is not and will never be. This is important for those of you who spend lots of time on social media and seem to do a lot more interactions with your phones and the alleged people on the other side of that phone than you do with actual humans in the flesh. This is important for you to consider everything I'm going to tell you here today. You need to understand what I'm going to say here today because not everyone is operating by the same mindset that you operate by. And you probably need to operate in both realms, the realm of what's happening on social and the realm of what's happening when you put your phone down. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is why social media will never be real life. Number one, real life in the flesh, human engagement still matters. And you still need the skills that come with it, regardless of what or how much you do through social media. I use social media a lot, every day, often. I use social media. I publish on social media. I live stream on social media. I engage with people on social media. I respond to comments on my live streams, at least on social media. And I respond to other people's content on X on social media. I use social media a lot, but I also deal with actual human beings a lot too. I do both. And you need both. Everyone listening to this, you still do things that require engagement with live in the flesh humans. Some of you still go to school where there are people. You go to work where there are humans. You have neighbors near you who you say hello to. And there is still a large swath of the human population who are not of the social media era. What I mean is there are still people out there who did not grow up with social media as a normal part of their lives, and they would rather engage with a real life human than engage with you through a Facebook post or a text message. They want to actually have some direct engagement, such as a phone call or at worst a Zoom call, or at best actually talking to you in the flesh where they can shake your hand. And these people, they're still alive and they still exist. They still value, prefer, and even prioritize dealing with an actual human rather than doing things through a phone or an app. They like dealing with and they're comfortable dealing with people who can have real life engagements with real life people. And here's the thing you need to understand, especially those of you who are in business. These people have green money. And generally speaking, as people get older, they tend to have more money. So an older audience of people tends to have more available money than a younger audience of people because they've been in their careers for longer. Also, on a personal side, any of you who's on the younger side, you consider yourself to be young, you probably have family members who are older and from generations that I'm describing here, generations that they did not grow up with social media and they prefer flesh to flesh communication. So please do not make the mistake of using your 27-year-old brain talking to your 25-year-old friends and using that same frame talking to your 75-year-old grandmother. All right, she doesn't look at things that way. She doesn't want a fucking Facebook post for her birthday. She wants you to call her or go knock on her door and bring her a cake or whatever the hell you do with your grandmother. All right, so do not apply the same rules to the same people. Not everybody's the same. And people from different eras have different expectations and operate by different rules. So always keep this in mind, especially those of you who have grown up on the internet and you don't know anything other than having access to it all the time. Understand there are people who didn't grow up with it and they do know a world where this wasn't a thing. Do not try to get them to fit into what you're doing. You fit into what they're doing if you're trying to get their cooperation. Get someone's cooperation, you got to get on the same page as them first. Then you can maybe get them to see your way. But don't start them on your way and hope that they're going to come to you. Why would they? Now, that's a question you should ask yourself. So a large swath of the population is still looking at this way. All right. They are not of the social media era, and they still value, prefer, and even prioritize, keyword, even will prioritize people who will do flesh to flesh, real life engagement, phone call, maybe a Zoom call, and in person. All right, keep that in mind. There's an opportunity then, based on what I just said, for you to engage with these folks because that is their main mode of communication. And if you are in business, as I already told you, the money out of the pocket of a 65-year-old, first of all, is just as good as the money out of the pocket of a 25-year-old. But secondly, 65-year-old probably has more money in more pockets than the 25-year-old has. So what business are you in? You're in the business of making money. Then you might want to talk to some of these people who are from an older generation because they got it. They got the money. Okay. And the people in your age bracket, they have money too. But understand that if your goal is making money, you shouldn't only be focused on people who are in your age bracket. You should focus on anyone who might be wanting to buy whatever you're selling, whatever it may happen to be. Okay, point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why social media will never be real life. Number 2, as social media provides an even more robust platform for people to live out their unlived fantasies through a smartphone. That's pretty much what social media allows people to do. Live out their unlived fantasies, say things that they otherwise wouldn't say, et cetera, through a smartphone. Here's what happens. The supply of people who are doing it in real life has become thinner and thinner. So there are more people going to social media to live out what they've never actually done. The supply of people who are living out what they want to do in real life, as opposed to going to social media to imagine it, those people are in short supply but high demand. The people who are really doing it. In other words, taking all the stuff that people go to the internet to say, if you're willing to say it in real life, you're more valuable. Take all the things that people want to pretend to do through the internet and through social media. If you actually do it in your real life, you become a more valuable person because you're doing what everybody else is imagining to do but doesn't have the balls to actually try, let alone to actually commit to and complete and actually execute on. So OnlyFans, for example, and Instagram models, OnlyFans and Instagram women, they make it easy for men to virtually engage with girls who many of these men would never approach if they saw the same girl walking through the mall. Same girl. All right. The girls who are on OnlyFans, these are real people, not all of them, but a bunch of them. And then Instagram, same thing. Not all of them are real women, but some of them are actually real people. I live in Miami, Florida. I've seen a bunch of them. They've been my neighbors. I know exactly who they are. I can point them out. We could walk around downtown Miami or Brickell. I can point out the OnlyFans models. I know who they are. I can point out the Instagram Mass models. I know who they are. Anyway, men will go on OnlyFans and Instagram and engage with these women through comments and DMs and tips or whatever the hell you do with them. I'm not a customer. But the same woman, if you saw her walking past you in the street or you saw her standing in front of you in line in Starbucks, you wouldn't say anything to her. So what social media has allowed a bunch of people to do is to live out their fantasies through a phone that they otherwise never would have lived out. Now, again, I'm not even knocking these people. I'm just pointing it out. What I'm telling you is the people who are still willing to live out their fantasies and actually do it in real life, where you got to put your balls on the table and you got to risk something in order to make it happen. Those people are the most valuable people. Why? Because there is a scarcity of you. The internet makes it easier and easier for people to live out fantasies through a phone to where they don't have to risk anything. So those who are still willing to risk and live out their fantasies in real life, you become more valuable as there are fewer and fewer of you. And also, let's keep in mind that the people who are actually doing it in real life, you provide a template to the people who are doing it on the internet. See, the man who will go and talk to any girl he sees in real life provides a template to the man who is not willing to do that in real life, but he will do it through the internet. He needs something to strive for. All right. I want to get this girl. Okay, here's a man who actually got that girl in real life. You are going to go try to get the girl through OnlyFans. But the reason why you want to go get the girl through OnlyFans is you see the man who can actually get her in real life. You want to be him, but since you don't have the balls, you go do it through your phone. That's what social media allows. I just explained this when I told you there's a bunch of these A9 accounts. People saying shit that they actually want to say, but they won't say it behind their own name because they don't want to be held accountable for what they said. So they hide behind an anonymous account. And that's a metaphor for basically what social media has done to a bunch of people. You basically live out the life that you haven't lived through your phone. Be careful. Okay. The ability to actually approach and do things like talk to a girl, the ability to actually approach and speak to a woman you're interested in real life is still in high demand. It's still a highly valuable skill and is becoming more valuable because there are fewer people doing it. That's the reason why you've heard a lot of people under 30 say that the dating market is not good. Now, they don't have anything to compare it to because they're under 30, so they only know what they know. But do I think the dating market has gotten significantly worse over decades? I say yes. The reason why I say yes is because 2 decades ago, if you were a man and you wanted to meet girls, you had to actually go and fucking meet girls in real life. You didn't have a choice. You had to go to a party or go to the club or go to the gas station and talk to a girl. That's what you had to do. Nowadays, you can talk to a girl without leaving your house. Or at least you hope it's a girl, without leaving your house. So the people who have the skill to do this rare thing have become more valuable individuals. The ability to sell things online through a sales funnel, for example, something I do a lot of, where you never actually have to speak to a human, is becoming more easily done. Selling things through funnels have become easier and easier as it becomes easier to build them and easier to understand them. And there are more people out there who know how to do it, which means those who can still do what we call press the flesh. That's a euphemism for a handshake, or to be, as we say, to do belly to belly sales. Belly to belly means actually talking to a live human being in real life, or sitting in the living room or the kitchen of someone's home and selling them something. Sales, that type of selling becomes even more valuable because there are fewer and fewer people who have the skill to do it, to actually go and do it face to face. And a lot of business still gets done this way, in case any of you didn't know. So the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, episode 1025, the opportunity is always in the opposites. Look around at what there are fewer and fewer people doing of something that still matters, and there's your opportunity. And if you already have the skill, don't lose the skill. So if you have a skill of doing something and you allow that skill to erode, well, now the people who still have that skill will probably have some opportunities that you don't have. For example, in 2006, I was playing basketball professionally. I was in Mexico, and I took 3 or 4 years of high school Spanish class. And based on those 3 or 4 years, when I went to Mexico, a lot of the Spanish that I had learned in school started to come back to me. So in high school, I learned the conjugation of verbs. I learned a whole bunch of the verbs and a lot of what you need to know to know a language, or let's just say Spanish. The language of Spanish, a lot of it is about the verbs. If you can get the verbs down and you can get you know how to conjugate the verbs, you can get along pretty well. And then you got like the basic terms, a lot of basic terms like hello, good morning, the bathrooms, food, and stuff like that. But a lot of the verbs started coming back to me. And because I was talking to people who spoke only Spanish, I was picking up on stuff and I could communicate enough that they got what I was trying to say, and then they would help me out and fill in the gaps and stuff like that. And it was to the point in 2006 when I was in Mexico, I was dating girls who did not speak a single word of English. And I could communicate with them in Spanish in a way that they could understand me and I could understand them. And I was having like full-on text conversations with girls who did not speak any English whatsoever. I'm telling you that not to impress you, but to impress upon you. If we flash forward to today, I do not retain that ability to communicate in Spanish. I have lost it because I stopped using it. And if I could speak Spanish down here in Miami, I could hear and eavesdrop on more people's conversations because I could hear what they're saying in Spanish. I can understand it better. And I don't know what I would do with it in the line of work that I'm in now, but I could talk to more people who don't speak English. There's a lot of people down here in South Florida who don't speak English, or at least they pretend to not be able to speak English, and they mostly speak to each other in Spanish. So anyway, scarcity makes the value increase. As long as you have something that is actually worth something and it becomes more scarce, it becomes more valuable. So you should always look at what social media is causing people to stop doing in real life and get good at that. So what's one thing social media is causing people to stop doing in real life? Well, a lot of people are forgetting how to write because you can talk to text. I talked about that myself. You can write, you become valuable. A lot of people are not learning how to build things because you can go to some AI and it'll build it for you. A lot of people are not learning how to formulate proper sentences or proper paragraphs, or how to, again, put words together in a good way, because AI can give you the words. All you got to do is read off the script. So the ability to come up with this stuff, copywriting, is still valuable. A lot of people are afraid to have real life personal conversations with real life human beings in a real situation. Your ability to do that becomes more valuable because there are so few people who have the skill, and a bunch of people who used to have it who have lost it because they stopped using it. So all of these things become more valuable. So look at what social media is causing people to stop doing and allowing to atrophy, and develop that skill, because the skill will always be needed. This skill will always be needed. Not even still needed, always be needed. Point number 3, today's topic once again. And by the way, before I get into point number 3, future-proof skills. I've talked about this before. So if you want to know what are some skills that are future-proof, and that means exactly what I say, which is there are certain things that will always be valuable no matter what changes in the world. I did a 4-part series on it in episode number 3137. the future-proof skills you need. One of them is one of the things that I just told you. Now, point number 3, topic once again is why social media will never, ever, ever be real life. Number 3, artificial intelligence and automation are getting better. We know this to be true, which means if you are one of the few people who will be developing real intelligence and real skills, you become more valuable. Because more and more people are not developing real intelligence or real skills. They're just using the artificial intelligence and the artificial quote unquote skill of using it. As more and more people use those tools, the opportunity is in being the person who actually has those tools, not the person who can go tap in and use those tools. So having actual intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence will become more valuable. Why? Because not in every situation in life will you be able to fire up an AI bot to get an answer to a question. Sometimes you just got to answer the question right there on your feet. And if you don't have the tools to do that and you lose that skill, even if you ever did have it, if you keep defaulting to AI every time you have a question that needs to be answered, well, you got a problem. The very purpose of the smartphone, ladies and gentlemen, is that the phone gets smarter and smarter. You notice that? You think of the first iPhone that Steve Jobs premiered at one of his famous Apple events where they told the public what they were coming out with. When he debuted the iPhone, it's probably one of the most, maybe the most famous marketing presentation ever done in history. So y'all should look it up on YouTube. Just look up Steve Jobs introduces the iPhone and listen to that presentation that he gave when he introduced the iPhone. And that first iPhone did not even have the ability to copy and paste. You couldn't copy and paste on the first iPhones. A lot of things it couldn't do. But now that we're on whatever number we're on, iPhone 17 or 18 by the time you hear this episode, the phone has gotten better. The phone has gotten smarter. The phone has gotten more developed. It has gotten faster. It can do a lot more things. It understands a lot more things. It is much more intuitive and is making life easier for you because it's taking a lot of things you used to have to do on your own and through your own thinking and is doing it for you. So in short, simple terms, the smartphone has gotten a whole lot smarter. But guess what the trade-off of a smartphone getting smarter is? Does anybody know the trade-off of the smartphone getting smarter? Here it is. The people using the smartphones, they have gotten dumber and dumber. As the phone gets smarter, the person gets dumber. Why? Because the smartphone is taking away the necessity for you to think. It's making it easier and easier for you to not think at all because it's providing all the answers for you. The trade-off of that ease and that comfort of the smartphone doing all the thinking for you is that you stop using your own brain because nothing is forcing you to use your brain. I talked about this a few episodes ago when I told you that society is getting weaker. One of the reasons society is getting weaker is because we have made things easier. So even though the smartphone is a great tool and I appreciate the smartphone, at the same time, you cannot become a slave to the smartphone. Because eventually you'll be completely useless because you have no skills, because you haven't needed to develop any, because the smartphone has everything you need, or at least you think it does, until you realize that the smartphone has taken your place as a contributing member of society, and now you can't go get the things that you need because you can't contribute. The smartphone sucked all your skills away, or that's not accurate to say. Smartphone allowed you to allow your skills to atrophy and wither away. That's what actually happens. The opportunity, folks, is in having the skills that the smartphone allegedly is going to make it unnecessary for you to have. This is where you got to resist. So the very purpose of the smartphone, folks, is it gets smarter, you get dumber. And that's exactly what's happening, by the way. People are getting dumber. We have access to more information than we've ever had access to ever in humanity. These days, you and I can access more information from our phones within 30 seconds than your grandparents could have accessed in their entire fucking lives. Now, how much smarter are we than our grandparents? I would say we're not. I say they were smarter than us. Why? Because they had to actually think to solve problems. We don't. They had to think to solve every problem they had to actually think to figure it out. We don't have to think to figure out every problem. All right, we can consult something that's going to answer the question for us, and we don't have to think at all. All we got to do is take a picture or Google something, and the answer comes up. Your brain's not working anymore. Your opportunity is, while continuing to use the smartphone, I use the smartphone, don't become a victim of the smartphone. Let's recap today's class, which is why social media will never be real life. I just told you that social media has become real life, so now I'm giving you the counterpoint to the point. Number one, real life in the flesh human engagement still matters, and you still need the skills that come with it, regardless of what or how much you do through social media. There is still real life engagement that is necessary. Do not undervalue or underestimate the value of the skill. Number two, as social media provides a more robust platform for people to live out their unlived fantasies through a phone, The people who are willing to live out those fantasies off the phone become more and more valuable because people still need something to aim at, a target to look at. You become the target. Number 3, artificial intelligence and automation are only getting better, which means there are fewer people developing real intelligence and real skills and real know-how. So the opportunity is in having those skills. Real life skills are still valuable because there will be so few people who have them that the phone is going to own a whole bunch of people in 10 years. Just make sure it doesn't own you. You own the phone, don't let the phone own you. All that said, everybody, at workonyourgameuniversity.com, you can join our membership called The Circle, where you can get group coaching from me, get access, get into the university, get me as your coach, and now you will know exactly what to do, when to do, why to do it, where to do it, and you get on the hot seat every time you get on a call. So we know exactly what you're working on, why you're working on it, what your challenge is, and you'll know exactly what to do. And again, you're going to see me do it with you and with others as a member of The Circle. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all